Welcome to the Mind Garden, a place for the soul where only truth can grow. I'm Vonnie, and I'm ready to dig in, man. This is an unbiased report about America and the coronavirus. At least I think it is. At times you will think I'm a cold-hearted bitch, and at others a stoned-out hippie. But just keep listening so you can be informed. When the virus first hit, the world realized that we didn't know anything about it, and that was terrifying for good reason. As death rates rose, it was impossible to know much about the mortality rate, the symptoms, and how contagious it was, so it seemed a wise precaution to close things down. But closing down countries is a very serious thing. Thousands of people were consulted, and the options were weighed against one another to come to this decision. This was not the work of one person. America complied, because we too were worried. We didn't know if corona was like the blood-puking, organ-dissolving Ebola, a death sentence, or if it was as simple as the flu. No one knew, so we followed instructions. But it quickly became apparent that this virus was like many other diseases. It affected the weak, and this made a lot of people relax. Why? Well, in scientific terms, diseases kill off the weak to provide more resources for the strong. A strong animal can smell better, hear better, run faster, produce healthier babies, and thus keeps the population moving along. But a weak animal takes much more than it gives back. It is no surprise that the weak die. And so many people shrugged this off. They were thinking, geez, people, can't you see that this very thing happens every day and has been happening since humans were first created? Which is completely true. But humans are different than animals. Within the human population, the weak give us wisdom, love, companionship, and teach us timeless skills. Plus, losing a human you love hurts, and we don't want to be hurt. So there's this whole other group of people that were thinking, yeah, other folks are heartless beasts. Then we found out that the virus is incredibly contagious, much more than the flu, and we were told to go to incredible lengths to stop the spread of this disease so it wouldn't reach the weaker population. A lot of people blew this off because they knew it didn't matter for them because they were strong, and if their family members were afraid of them, they totally had the option to not be around them. They also thought that if the virus was that contagious, we were all going to be exposed at some point anyway, so why not speed things along? The flip side of that is that if the virus spread too quickly, it would overwhelm hospitals, and we were going to lose patients from lack of care rather than from the coronavirus itself. It seemed like only idiots would not consider this very important fact. So you can see both sides here, because they both make sense. But I think we can all agree that 100% of humans die, so it's really no shock that people die. In American culture, we have this idea that death is some horrible fate, something to be feared and avoided as much as possible. But that is just an idea, and you don't have to believe it. Death could be the best thing that ever happens to you. And like I said, 100% of us will die at some point. But you know what? No matter how you want to phrase it, death is not pleasant for those left behind. Now let's consider this next very important point. Once we knew that the virus attacked the weak, like so many other diseases, then America could have handled this situation in two different ways. Way number one, everyone has to sacrifice for the good of a few. Or, way number two, the few need to sacrifice for themselves. There was and is the option for Americans to choose to isolate and wear masks and take extreme precautions to protect themselves. And if their families want to visit them, they too need to make the sacrifice of cleanliness and meticulous sanitation. This is totally an option and would keep this weaker population safe. Instead, we are all forced to do this on their behalf, so they can still be active in the world and feel safe. There are people who are more than willing to do this because they love humanity. They feel like they are a part of this larger community, and they don't want anyone to be dying when we all have the option to be kind and respectful for all people and prevent their suffering. But there are other people who feel that we are each on our own, and each individual should have a choice about their survival and whether or not to get the coronavirus. After all, this is America, home of the brave, not home of the scared. But let's forget about all of that for now. Let's really look at the numbers. Here are the top 10 causes of death each year in America. We have heart disease, cancer, respiratory disease. But the thing that distinguishes some of these from corona is that many of these in the top 10 involve choices people made about being healthy. Heart disease, for example, kills over 600,000 people each year in America, and it's caused from an unhealthy diet, lack of exercise, smoking, and obesity, all of these being choices that people made in their lives. And many of those that have died from corona have one of these existing conditions. In other words, they were on the fast track to death anyway. But really, wouldn't it have been nice if they could have kicked around for a few more years? I'm sure their families think so. Without a doubt, corona accelerated their demise. But when you consider the scientific data that proves that eating nutritious food, exercising, avoiding toxic chemicals, and experiencing love make a person part of the stronger population, then you realize that many of those people did choose to make their own body weak. Obviously, those with genetic diseases or cancer did not have a choice in their condition, and that is the real tragedy here. They are the real victims because they didn't choose this in any way, shape, or form. My own biased opinion is that the government or community should protect this particular population by providing some sort of assistance. Moving on, you also need to consider that every decision has an upside and a downside, even the worst decisions ever made. So there is this one group that feels that the upside of having everyone sacrifice for the good of the few is better than the downside of this choice. But really, they may not realize there is a downside. There are others who are looking at the downside and screaming, "This isn't worth it." The downside is this: we are depleting resources for the poor. We have an unpredictable economy, which makes us fearful of the future. And most importantly, is the declining mental health of our population due to the inadequate resources, the unknown future, school restructuring, fear of death from corona. These mental health issues will actually increase the death rates of all of these top 10 diseases, even without any exposure to corona. So this group of people are mad as hell because no one is seeing that this weaker population are dying now from other causes instead of corona. So it really comes down to the individual. It is up to each of us to protect ourselves when we're scared and sense danger, to take shelter in God, whatever you conceive Him to be, and to respect those who are more afraid than you are. If someone is wearing a mask and you aren't, then stay 6 feet apart, because that person wearing a mask is afraid. If someone is not wearing a mask and you are, then also stay 6 feet apart. You both have a choice. So let's stop arguing about who is right and who is wrong. You're both right and you're both wrong. So I guess now I'm realizing that I'm more of the stoned out hippie than the heartless bitch, because I'm thinking love is all you need, man. Love is all you need. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos. I say, when it comes to truth, let it grow, man.